Hello, and welcome aboard the Midnight Express. Make yourself comfortable as we take you on a journey that will lead you off the main line and down a mysterious track, leading to destinations unknown. If you enjoy our stories, please take the time to like and subscribe. Thank you. And now, we present tonight's tale. The air in the Union Pacific Freight Yard tasted like iron dust and stale diesel. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and the cold was starting to bite through the thin synthetic fabric of Nick Monroe's security uniform. Nick was sitting with his feet propped up on the cracked dashboard of the patrol pickup. The faint, flickering glow of his phone screen casting sickly blue shadows across his face. He had been on shift for 5 hours and had completed exactly 0 of the mandated security sweeps. Nick Monroe, a man whose love for fried dough was matched only by his contempt for physical exertion, hated this job with a deep, existential dread. He was 20 minutes late starting his patrol. His logbook was empty save for the date scribbled on the top line, and his belly strained the buttons of his shirt. He was, to put it mildly, not a very good security guard. He'd signed up for an easy paycheck and wound up with endless nights of solitude, punctuated by the mournful whistle of a distant locomotive and the constant, overwhelming urge to nap. He was deep into a scrolling session, a review of old high school football glory days. When the movement registered in his peripheral vision, he blinked, rubbing the grease from his eyes. 3 figures, dark silhouettes against the looming, hulking shapes of the parked freight cars on track 4. The telltale hiss of a spray can was unmistakable, followed by a muffled, triumphant laugh. Kids. Of course. Nick groaned, the sound a low, rumbling complaint against the universe. It was a perfect encapsulation of his current misery. He could ignore it, which would mean a reprimand from his supervisor, Brenda, when the damage was found. Or he could actually do his job, which meant getting out of the warm truck. He chose the latter, but with minimal enthusiasm. He slammed the truck doors shut, a loud, metallic punctuation mark in the silent yard, and grabbed his heavy-duty, industrial-grade flashlight, a beast of a device that could temporarily blind a pilot. "Hey, get out of here," Nick yelled, his voice sounding thin and winded already, even before he'd taken a single proper step. He started the slow, deliberate movement toward the silhouettes, a waddling, unathletic pursuit. The kids, predictably, scattered. They were already clambering over the coupling between 2 cars. Nimble and fast, Nick's chase was a shambling, heavy-footed affair. He managed maybe 20 yards before his lungs started burning with the familiar fire of sudden exertion. He stopped, leaned against a boxcar, and gasped like a landed fish, clutching the stitch in his side. "Go on, I got your license plates," he wheezed, knowing full well he hadn't seen anything identifiable. The sound of running feet quickly faded into the echoing network of steel and ballast. He slowly regained his composure, sweat already plastering his hair to his forehead despite the chill. He moved to the nearest car on track 4, pointing his massive flashlight beam at the fresh damage. In bold, violent pink and neon green, a crude cartoon of a skull wearing a trucker hat glared back at him. He sighed, pulled the radio from his shoulder, and pressed the talk button. "Brenda, you there?" His voice was still ragged. A burst of static followed, then Brenda's crisp, annoyingly alert voice. "Go for Brenda. What's the excitement, Nick? Sounds like you just ran a marathon." "No, just had some taggers. Teens. I chased them off track 4. They got a quick tag up on that last car. Looked like a skull. The rest of the cars look clean." There was a slight pause on the other end, heavy with unspoken judgment.
Chased them off, did you? Must have been a pretty slow chase, Nick, considering I've never seen you move faster than a glacier melting. If you kept a closer eye on things, those kids would never have gotten into the yard to begin with. You know the drill, Nick. This is on you.
He winced, the sarcasm stinging. Yeah, I know. It's midnight, they're stealthy, whatever. Look, they're gone now.
Fine. But you need to do a full sweep of that whole eastern section, all the way to track 10. Make absolutely sure they didn't get any more vandalism up. Don't just stand there huffing patrol.
Nick rolled his eyes. 10-4, Brenda. Full sweep. Copy that. Over and out. He shoved the radio back, already dreading the walk. The whole yard was a maze of endless, identical steel cars under weak sodium vapor lights that bled into the thick night fog. Nick began his sweep, kicking loose gravel with his heavy boots. He walked slowly, shining his light more out of obligation than genuine interest, dragging his attention across the sides of the standard-issue blue and brown boxcars, tankers, and flatbeds. Everything looked normal. Standard, boring. Then he reached track 9. His flashlight beam, sweeping aimlessly through the fog, snagged on something completely out of place. It was unlike anything else in the yard. Instead of the familiar corrugated steel, his light revealed dark, varnished wood and heavy, antique iron fittings. He stopped, momentarily forgetting his fatigue. Parked on track 9 was a train, but not a freight train. It looked like something hauled out of a museum, or perhaps a dream. The cars were shorter and higher than modern rolling stock, constructed almost entirely of wood. Their curved roofs and stylized observation decks giving them the look of a long-forgotten passenger line. They were ancient. The varnish faded and chipped, the metal fittings coated in a century of grime. But it was the decoration that truly captivated him. These were circus cars. He pulled the radio back up to his lips, a genuine curiosity in his voice for the first time all night. Hey, Brenda.
Say again.
I'm over by track 9 now. Is there an old circus train in the yard? Looks like it's straight out of the 20s. Brenda's response was immediate and dry.
That would be the one. The Carnival Diaboli, or something like that. It was on its way south. But the main line had an incident. So they shunted it onto our track network to wait it out. Didn't you read the morning briefing? No, wait, scratch that. You probably haven't even glanced at the briefing.
Nick ignored the jab. Yeah, but is there anyone on board? And it looks like it's been sitting here for days.
As far as the manifest is concerned, the personnel, staff, trainers, performers, everyone. They were all loaded onto a separate coach train and cleared the area hours ago. It's just the cages and equipment. Nobody should be on those cars, Nick. Don't mess with it. Just check the area for graffiti and move on.
Got it, moving on, Nick muttered, but he didn't move. The sheer oddity of the train held him there. He started walking slowly alongside the line, panning his powerful beam across the wooden sides. He saw the old-fashioned, hand-painted logos, clearly applied with thick, enthusiastic brushstrokes long before digital printing existed. The art was eccentric, almost unnerving in its detail. One car, painted a cracked, faded scarlet, proudly proclaimed, "The Flying Rolandos, the daring duo who defy gravity." The depiction was of two figures in sequined tights, frozen midair, their faces unnaturally pale beneath their makeup. The next car was deep royal blue, the paint peeling away like old skin. The magic of Dr. Dimitrov. Illusions from the netherworld. The car featured a spooky, top-hatted figure with two long fingers holding a deck of cards that seemed to spill black ink. Nick found himself marveling at the artistry. There was a raw, unsettling energy to the designs, a world away from the bright, corporate gloss of modern entertainment. He was so engrossed in the weird spectacle that he didn't realize how far he'd walked until he found himself in a particularly dark spot. The sodium lamp above this section was burned out, leaving the area submerged in a heavy, humid shadow. He glanced around instinctively. Empty yard. Just him and this ancient, silent procession of wooden carriages. The feeling of being alone finally triggered a different biological urge. He hadn't taken a proper bathroom break, and the 2 liters of soda he'd chugged earlier were demanding payment. He looked around one last time. No sign of headlights, no sound but the high-pitched whine of the yard's generators miles away. This was as private as it was going to get. He set the flashlight down on the ballast, aiming its beam away from the train to avoid blinding himself, undid his pants, and sighed in relief as he directed a warm stream onto the track bed. It was just as he was zipping up that he heard it. A loud, hollow thump came from inside the wooden car directly next to him. Nick froze, mid-button. The sound was heavy, like a large, dense object, perhaps a sandbag or a small steamer trunk, falling from a short height onto a wooden floor. "Hello? Who's there?" Nick called out, his voice a nervous squeak. Silence. Just the ringing in his ears and the sound of his own heavy breathing. Must be settling, he thought, trying to rationalize the noise. Old wood expanding in the heat of the night. Except it was freezing. He finished securing his uniform, his heart beginning a slow, uncomfortable thrum against his ribs. He picked up his flashlight, his hand already slick with sweat. Then came another sound, a heavy, resonant thud from within the same car. Definitely more forceful than the first. It sounded like something alive hitting the wall. He took a step back, shining the light directly at the dark wooden siding. "Hey, I'm security. Is somebody in there? You need to call out." Still no response. The silence that followed was suffocating. Nick, against his better judgment, raised his fist and knocked 3 times, a sharp, insistent rat-tat-tat on the dry, brittle wood. Almost immediately, from within the dark heart of the car, came 3 equally clear, dull thuds. Thud, thud, thud. It wasn't an echo. It was a reply. The hair on the back of Nick's neck stood up. This was wrong. Circus crew or no circus crew, Brenda had said the staff were gone. This car should be empty. He took a hesitant step away from the train. "Is anyone on board?" he yelled, his voice now betraying a tremor. "This is private property. You need to identify yourselves." Nothing. Only the cold, empty darkness of the freight yard swallowed his words. He yanked the radio from his shoulder. His voice was frantic. "Brenda, I'm telling you, there is something moving inside one of these cars on track 9. I knocked, and something knocked back. I need to know. Absolutely. Are these cars empty?"
Nick, calm down. It's an old train, probably just the structure shifting. Like I said, the manifest showed all personnel cleared the yard hours ago. It's just animals, equipment, props. Look, just get your inspection done and roll out of there. You're spooking yourself.
"No, wait. I think there's something." He stopped abruptly. From inside the car, an explosive, tremendous bang erupted, far louder than the thumps. It was the sound of something large and furious slamming into the interior wall, shaking the entire wooden carriage on its springs. "Hold on, Brenda, hold on." Nick hissed into the radio, ignoring her immediate demand for a status update. He raised his voice, a thick, panicked bravado taking over. "I'm calling the railroad police. You come out of there right now. You are trespassing. Come out." Brenda's voice crackled, laced with impatience and rising anger.
Nick, what are you doing? Respond to me. What's that sound? Nick, you are not authorized to engage. Nick!
He dropped the radio to his side, its volume still turned high enough that Brenda's voice continued to rage in the empty air. Nick advanced, planting his feet in the ballast, raising the heavy flashlight like a weapon. He hammered his palm against the side of the car's wooden paneling. "I said, come out. This is your final warning." He looked up, aiming his light at the row of small, grimy windows lining the top of the car, designed more to let air in than light out. And then he saw it. A rapid shadow, too quick, too low, too fluid, slid past the nearest window, blotting out the faint reflection of the yard lights for a sickening instant. It wasn't the shape of a person. It was a smear, a ripple. Nick felt a surge of cold terror, but also a spike of pure, adrenal rage at having been fooled, mocked, and now genuinely threatened. He raised the flashlight higher, cupping his hand over his eyes to peer into the window. But the glass was too thick with dust and film. He stepped closer, closing the distance between himself and the thing inside. He reached up, the action fueled by a sudden, stupid arrogance, and his knuckles rapped hard on the glass. He bent closer, his mouth next to the pane, yelling directly into the darkness within. "Show me your face! Come on! Show me what you are!" The glass did not simply break. It exploded outward in a shower of thick, brittle shards. Nick screamed, the sound tearing raggedly from his throat as the thing that burst through the hole, a thick, leathery, rubbery appendage, ridged and dark, smelling faintly of brine and musk, slammed onto his forearm and wrapped around it with shocking speed. It was not a hand or a claw. It was a tentacle, powerful and cold. It coiled tight, crushing the bone instantly. Nick felt a sickening crunch, followed by a blinding, white-hot flash of pain that stole his breath. He instinctively dropped the flashlight, which clattered onto the tracks, its beam spinning wildly in the dark. The tentacle tightened again, and then, with terrifying, unnatural strength, it jerked back. Nick was hauled off his feet with the abruptness of a rag doll. His full weight was nothing to the force on the other end of that limb. His head smashed against the wooden frame of the window as he was dragged horizontally through the jagged opening. The screams that followed were cut short, muffled by the tight enclosure of the car. The rough-hewn edge of the window frame caught his uniform jacket and tore it, leaving strips of fabric hanging like streamers. A heartbeat later, the radio he had been holding in his other hand slipped from his grasp, its shell cracking as it hit the ballast, stained with a fine splatter of Nick's blood. Brenda's voice, now high-pitched and frantic, was still screaming out of the broken speaker.
Nick, respond. What in God's name was that noise? Nick, you are fired. Respond to me immediately.
The radio continued to squawk, the only sound of human agency left in the yard. Then, the mournful, distant, drawn-out blast of a locomotive horn sounded, closer now. It wasn't the sound of the yard shunter. It was deeper, older, and heavier. With a grinding screechage of iron on iron, the circus train began to move. Slowly at first, the wheels starting their rotation, then gathering speed, the ancient wooden cars rattling and creaking as they pulled away from the dark section of Track 9. The car Nick had been pulled into rolled smoothly past the last functioning sodium lamp. The light illuminated the full length of the wooden siding, revealing the final, ghastly panel of the ancient car. The logo, rendered in chipped, menacing Gothic lettering, read, "The Mysterious Creatures of Professor Preen." The lamplight swept over a crude but chilling image, a depiction of a vast, unseen creature with a mess of dark, coiling limbs. The car and its passenger rolled out of the light, picking up speed, vanishing into the night fog and the endless maze of the main line, leaving behind only a faint, musky scent, a pool of spattered blood, and a supervisor's furious voice echoing from a shattered radio. The freight yard settled back into its silent, cold vigil, as if nothing at all had happened.